Hello, Christ is risen. Indeed, he is risen. I'm Father Kevin Long of St. Elias Antiochian Orthodox Church in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Today is Sunday, May 26th, 2024, and here are the readings for today. A reading from the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 9, verses 32 through 42. In those days, as Peter went here and there among them all, he came down also to the saints that lived at Lydda. There he found a man named Aeneas, who had been bedridden for 8 years, and was paralyzed. And Peter said to him, Aeneas, Jesus Christ heals you. Rise and make your bed. And immediately he rose. And all the residents of Lydda and Sharon saw him, and they turned to the Lord. Now there was at Joppa a disciple named Tabitha, which means Dorcas. She was full of good works and acts of charity. In those days she fell sick and died. And when they had washed her, they laid her in an upper room. Since Lydda was near Joppa, the disciples, hearing that Peter was there, sent 2 men to him, entreating, Please come to us without delay. So Peter rose and went with them. And when he had come, they took him to the upper room. All the widows stood beside him weeping, and showing tunics and other garments which Dorcas had made when she was with them. But Peter put them all outside and knelt down and prayed. And then, turning to the body, he said, Tabitha, rise. And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, she sat up. And he gave her his hand and lifted her up. Then calling the saints and widows, he presented her alive. And it became known throughout all Joppa, and many believed in the Lord. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. John, chapter 5, verses 1 through 15. Let us be attentive. At that time Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, in Hebrew called Bethesda, which has 5 porticos. In these lay a multitude of invalids, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel of the Lord went down at certain seasons into the pool and troubled the water. And whoever stepped in first after the troubling of the water was healed of whatever disease he had. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew that he had been lying there a long time, he said to him, Do you want to be healed? The sick man answered, Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is troubled, and while I am going, another steps down before me. Jesus said to him, Rise, take up your pallet, and walk. And at once the man was healed, and he took up his pallet and walked. Now that day was the Sabbath. So the Jews said to the man who was cured, It is the Sabbath. It is not lawful for you to carry your pallet. But he answered them, The man who healed me said to me, Take up your pallet and walk. They asked him, Who is the man who said to you, Take up your pallet and walk? Now the man who had been healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had withdrawn, as there was a crowd in the place. Afterward, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, See, you are well. Sin no more, that nothing worse befall you. The man went away and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had healed him. Glory to thee, our God. Glory to thee. So today's gospel involves a man who had been ill for 38 years. So hard for us to imagine what that could possibly be like. Sitting there in this area of the 5 porticos, witnessing the mercy of God as an angel comes and troubles the water so that the first person to get into the water is made whole. In many ways, this shows a comparison between the ways of the world and the ways of God. Now, I'm going to do this gently because obviously an angel comes from God. But the idea of competition is not actually a Christian concept. And so, to have the angel come and trouble the water and then it be a race The first one to get to the water gets healed. And imagine being a paralytic. You would have a really hard time getting into the water in time. Someone who's blind, someone who's deaf, someone who has some other malady other than a mobility malady will easily be able to get into the water and be healed. But not this poor man. There's no one to help him. And imagine what that would look like. I have this vision where a strong man would come, grab him, and toss him into the water. Perhaps first, maybe not first. But at any rate, it didn't happen. So our Lord comes, and he sees him, and he knows what this man has been going through. And what does Jesus say? He says, "Do you want to be healed?" The sick man replies by saying he has no one to help him into the pool before someone else gets there before him. And all our Lord says is, "Rise, take up your pallet, and walk." No longer is it a contest of who's going to get there first. No longer is it a worry over whether the water was troubled by an angel at that time or not. No uncertainty, no doubt. It's our Lord standing right there in front of him saying, "Rise, take up your pallet, and walk." The mercy of God extends to everyone, not just the ones who are mighty, not just the ones who are superior in any contest, be it a contest of physical prowess or of spiritual ability. God's mercy extends to everyone. And so this man is healed. He is delivered of his malady and is able to do just as Jesus says. At once, he takes up his pallet and he walks. Now, the story continues. This happened on the Sabbath. And so observant Jews would see this man carrying a pallet and they would be offended. And they would say, "This man is violating our Sabbath rule. It is not lawful for you to carry your pallet." But the man defends himself by saying, "The one who healed me said, 'Rise, take up your pallet, and walk.'" And they were not able to tell who he was, because the man was so elated that he really didn't take time to understand. Jesus had disappeared by the time that he was questioned. And so the man is then doing what is appropriate, going to the temple and thanking God. And then Jesus sees him in the temple, and he says, "Aha, see, you are well. Sin no more, that nothing worse come upon you." And from that point forward, he did tell people who it was who told him to rise, take up his pallet, and walk. God has visited his people, and he has pronounced this healing to this poor man who had had this infirmity for 38 years. And he will deliver us all from all that plagues us. We look forward to being with him in a place of brightness and rest, where there is no more sorrow or sighing, but life everlasting. Christ is risen. Indeed, he is risen. Have a great day, and God willing, we'll see you tomorrow.